Never get close to an accident in the middle of the night. Or at least that's what this guy says because of what happened to him. This happened 10 years ago when the guy was 30 years old and bought his first car. He actually bought the car without even knowing how to drive, so he says that it took him a month to learn and get his license. And it just so happened that when he got his license, he also got a week off of work for vacation, and he planned to go to Querétaro because that's where all his family is from. He also invited his girlfriend on this trip, and they decided to leave in the middle of the night because there wouldn't be that much traffic. The amount of times I would leave at 3 in the morning from Austin all the way to the valley, I'm so glad this never happened to me. So they're on the road, and he says that him and his girlfriend are singing along to some music. In that moment is when he starts to see from afar that there is a car with its headlights just blinking, and as they're getting closer, he notices that the car was actually flipped upside down. They could tell that it was an accident and it was a family inside that car. He said he could tell that they had hit one of those like cement medians, and that he knew there was a family in the car because he could hear all of them screaming for help. So when he finally gets next to the car, he just wants to make sure that there is somebody in there, they do need help, and indeed he hears all of them screaming very desperately. Because he sees a lot of like oil and gas coming out of the car, he got scared and he did reverse back at a distance. That way he's not close to the car if it decides to like explode or anything like that. When he parks the car, he tells his girlfriend to stay in the car and to call the police for help, and he gets out because he wants to go help the family. He approaches the car very carefully, and at that point there was nobody screaming for help anymore. He says that the only thing he can hear is like the gas or the oil just leaking out of that car. So as he's about to kneel down to look into the window of the car, he feels an arm on his shoulder and a male voice behind him saying, "Hey young man, can you please help me get them out of the car?" When he turned, he sees a man. He looks maybe 50 with gray hair, but he looks very strong. And of course, he told the man that he would help. The man asked him if he could first help him get the kids out of the back seat. He said that they both kneeled down and got into position to try to take those kids out, and he first saw a little girl that was unconscious. He said it wasn't that hard to get the little girl out because she was so tiny, but that he grabbed her by the shoulders and the arms, and that the man grabbed her by her feet and pulled her out of there. When they pulled her out, he was still holding her from her shoulders and the man from her feet, and they kind of placed her on the road just at a little bit of a distance from the car. As they're walking back to the car, the man's like, "Okay, we need to go to the left and get that little boy out." He says that this little boy did look like he was in really bad shape, and they did the same thing. He grabbed him by the shoulders, the man got him by his feet, and they went to go lay them down gently away from that car. While they were bringing that boy back to where the girl was, his safety, he said that he did ask the man where he left his car because he didn't see it around them, and the man never answered him. But he says that he noticed that when he asked that question, the man looked like he was hurt or like in pain, or like that this whole like accident was affecting him a lot more than it should have. So they leave the little boy with the other little girl, and as they're walking back to the car, the man asked him to take the little baby out of the passenger's arms. However, this time when he got close to the passenger window, he noticed that the window wasn't completely broken. There was only like a little part, so he needed like a jacket in order to put it there so he wouldn't cut himself and get that baby out of the passenger's arms. Without even looking back, he asked the man if he can borrow his jacket so that he can try to get that baby out through the window without getting cut. But the man never said anything. He never responded. He thought to himself that maybe that man didn't hear him, so he turned around to say it a little louder, and when he did, the guy was no longer there. He thought that maybe he went to his car to get something, but the only car that he can see on that road was the one that was crashed, and his at a distance. He said that he didn't have the time to wait for that man to come out, so he took his own shirt off and wrapped it around his arm that was gonna have to touch the sharp glass. He very carefully got the baby out of that car as safely as he could. Thankfully, it was in that moment where he could finally hear the police or like the ambulance sirens getting close to where they were. Since he heard them coming, he didn't go back to the car to try to get anybody else out. He said that the police, paramedics, and the firefighters showed up. He said that the police interrogated him and actually got mad at him for even moving those kids out of that car. He admits to the cops that he wasn't gonna move them, but there was a man there who had asked him to help him get them out of the car. That's when the police asked him to describe the man who was asking for that help. So he tells them it was a man in his 50s, he had gray hair, he had a blue jacket on, he had green jeans on, and he had some white sneakers on. He also mentioned that in that moment the kids started waking up. The paramedics did say that the kids had some injuries and bruising, but that they were going to be okay. He said that the firefighters were in charge of getting the two adults that were on the driver and passenger side. Even though they told him that he could leave already since he wasn't involved, he did stay there a little bit because he was a little curious about the conditions of the people in the front. He was so surprised at how fast the firefighters were able to get the lady out of the passenger seat, put her on that that gurney and left with her in the ambulance. He said that when the firefighters got to the driver's side, it did take them a little bit longer because he was really stuck in there. However, when they were able to get that person out and put him on that gurney, he says that he saw somebody really familiar laying there. It was the same man that had been asking for his help. I got chills. But trust me, you do not expect this ending. He said that the only difference was that he could see some injuries all around his face, but it was the same man. The hair, the jacket, the jeans, like his tennis shoes, it was the guy. Even when he turned to look at the police, they were all in a state of shock because that was the same man that he had just described to them moments ago, and they were looking at each other like, what the fuck? He says that he did not hold back. Like, he even went up to him and said, that's the man. That's the man who asked for my help. That's the guy who helped me take the kids out of that car. He said that the cops were like already shaken, but then they turned to anger and were like, you need to stop, you need to leave, like you don't have anything to do with this anymore. He didn't want to give the cops any more trouble, so he agreed to leave. But as he's walking to his car, he's like, I was so confused, like what just happened? He can see that his girlfriend was asleep in the car, but when he opened the door, she woke up. With a very shakily voice, he asked his girlfriend if she had seen the guy who helped them take the kids out of the car, and her answer left him in even more shock because she tells him that she saw only him getting that boy and little girl out of that car. He insisted that it wasn't him alone because he was like, I was only holding onto their shoulders and their arms. The other man was holding onto their feet. There's no way that you would have only seen me take them out when we were both holding on to like the opposite ends of those kids. And that was when his girlfriend said that when she was looking at him, yeah, he was holding on to their shoulders and their arms, but that he was dragging them. The feet were dragging on the street all the way to the point where he would leave them to safety. And I know you think you know how this ends, but I'm telling you, it's not what you think. He said that he felt like he was going crazy about what his girlfriend just told him, but he couldn't leave it alone. He saw that the ambulance was about to get ready to take off, so he went and asked him if the man in that car had passed away. The paramedics answered no, that he had really bad injuries, but he was in stable condition. The driver, the guy, he's alive. Not just that, but he saw him awake in the ambulance. The guy was awake in the fucking ambulance. The paramedics thanked him for his great work at getting the kids out safely, and they left. He said that he has not stopped thinking about this whole situation because it would only have made sense to him if maybe the dad's soul, his spirit, was there asking him to take the kids out of the car. But the man, he's not dead. Like, he didn't die in that accident. He says that when he tells the story, people are like, maybe it was a different person. He's like, no, like it was not a different person. It was that same man. So what do you guys think? Like, to me, it would also make sense if he had passed away. Maybe his soul was trying to help him save his children and his wife, but the guy was alive. Or it could have been like, maybe did he die for a moment? I don't know. What do you guys think?